Hello there. Good morning. Hey guys, good morning. Welcome to Kings Speak. I am your host, Jaimi Alexander, and this is Kings Speak, an interview series designed to have the conversations that men don't really have as mainstream. You know, we're starting to see more. We're starting to see kings like Jay Bar. Well, I'm sure obviously they've been working for a long time, but when you see the Jay Barnett's, Christian Keys, Dondre Whitfield has Male versus Man. There's all of these platforms that are emerging where men have space to talk about the important things that they're generally not talking about: emotional intelligence, vulnerability, sex abuse, and all of these things. So really hoping to bring some insight to a lot of these topics, and hopefully you guys learn and glean from the conversations, so that we can all grow and even harmonize our relationships between men and women. The more we know about each other and the more that we understand about each other and the things that we go through gives us a real opportunity to invite in compassion and understanding and move forward in healthy ways. So today, let me see if my guest is in here. Let me just look in a minute. We have a very special guest. He's an award-winning actor, writer, director. He's from Philly. He wrote a film called TMI, How Much is Too Much. And this particular gentleman felt like it was a big deal to share a story, especially because when men experience sex abuse, there's a lack of safe spaces where they have to speak about it, especially in the Black community. So how do you go forward and get healing? How do you move on when you're dealing with stuff like this? But Reggie has worked in so much when it comes to TV and film. He's a comedic actor. He's been on television. He's been producing amazing things. So please give it up for our guest, Reggie Gaskins. Woohoo! Okay, let's see. Let's see if I can find him in here. Okay, I don't think he's in there yet. I don't see him. Let's see. Okay, I don't think he's in the studio yet. Okay, let's see. All right. Okay. Well, we're just going to wait a minute on him to get in here. I'll be able to see that, I believe. There he goes. All right. Awesome. There he is. Give it up for Reggie Gaskins, y'all.
How you doing?
Hey.
Are we good?
Okay, wait. I can't hear you, but I don't know if it's... Let's see. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. Oh. Yes. Can you hear me?
Is your mic muted?
No. My mic is on.
Let's see. Why can't I hear him? Okay. Audio. Huh.
Let me see something.
Okay, this is going to be a little bit of a challenge if I can't hear you.
Wait, can you hear me now? How's that?
Wait,
how about that?
Maybe
if I'm doing this, can you hear me? Mic check.
Oh, I'm here. I think I hear sound now.
You hear me?
Yes.
There we go.
All right. What's going on, Reggie?
Oh man, just trying to work and enjoy and live life and do the best I can to be the best I can.
I mean, first of all, I feel like we go way back, okay?
Uh-huh.
I'm very familiar with who you are. I know your face. I know your work. And I mean, we've been in Hollywood a long time. I feel like you've been around doing your thing.
Yeah.
A long time.
20 years.
Yes.
From Philly.
Yeah, I love that. Well, congratulations for staying in there. You're working hard. You straight up shot a film last month or this month.
Shot a film, yeah, yeah.
The month isn't even over yet. That's amazing. So why don't you tell the people just a little bit about who you are, and then we'll jump right into this amazing conversation.
Okay. Reggie Gaskins from Philly, been out here 20 years. Started my career at Freedom Theater back in Philly. Did a lot of plays in Philly and New York, and moved out here to LA at the request of one of my actors, Keith Burke, and Keanu Levin, two of my actors that were in my film, talked me into moving out here, and been out here mainly as an actor. I got into writing and doing films myself to play the kind of characters I'd like to play, as opposed to waiting or allowing Hollywood to determine what my role would be. And I believe that all creators should create their own work as best they can. And fortunately for me, it's kind of worked out where I've had a chance to sustain myself and do that for about 17 years now.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that. I'm kind of like you, waiting on Hollywood to give us the roles that we want to see. I enjoy acting, but I didn't pursue it in the same way because I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if it's my jam, but if I got a great friend who has a film and it makes sense, then I'll do theirs.
Right.
Well, I love that. So we're going to dive in because this is actually a very important conversation, and I'm glad that we're having it. Because, being open about sex abuse is hard enough.
Right.
And, it can present additional challenges, just because the social attitudes and stereotypes about men and masculinity and things like that. There's a lack of safe spaces to speak about sex abuse and anything really when it comes too deep, when it comes to men. But when you bring in sex abuse, I know there's a lot of shame and guilt and a lot of things surrounding that. So tell me why it was important for you to create a film with a character, tell me about the film that you created and why it was important to tell this story.
So the film is entitled TMI, and it stars myself, Jacqueline Fleming, Aaron D. Spears, and Angelia Smalls. And it is the story of a couple that's about to get married. And on the eve of their wedding, the fiance finds out some disturbing news about her fiance. And that is that, he was sexually abused. And she instantly places judgment on him based on that information. And the reason why it was important for me to make this film, fortunately for me in my life, I've never been sexually abused. But I work with kids. I've been working with kids for the past 10 years. And my kids are from foster homes and disadvantaged youths. And they all come from extraneous situations and have gone through a lot. And a few of my kids have dealt with sexual abuse. And because I've been with them from preteen to adulthood, later on in life, not knowing this when I first started teaching them, they would speak to me about what happened to them. And they talked about as they got older, how difficult it was to speak about this issue because being a man, Black, white, Hispanic, whatever the case is, it's a difficult conversation to have. And there's really no safe space that they feel to talk about it. So being a filmmaker, I said, I'm going to tell a story that speaks to this issue and hopefully start the conversation so that when adults see it, they can then say, let me go have a conversation with my son. Let me have a conversation with my daughter, because this topic is glossed over. We don't want to talk about it. We don't want to deal with it. And unless it's something that happens in the news or becomes so public, nobody wants to have this conversation. We want to talk about it. So I'm hoping that my film will create a safe environment mentally to say, let me push past the mental blocks of talking about this difficult conversation and actually have a conversation so that I can prevent anything that may occur or put a stop to anything that's currently occurring.
I mean, that's powerful. I feel like that is what we are given our gifts and talents to do, is to create space for conversations, for healing, for, transformation and these things like that. So when you presented the script to your cast, what were their thoughts about it after reading it? How excited were they to dive into a project that will bless people?
Right. I'm thankful when they read the script. they were like, wow, this is really deep. And I didn't want it to be so heavy. So there are comedic elements in the script. And being a comedic actor and a stand-up comedian, I try to keep some comedic light moments in it. But then, when you get hit with the power of it, it's not such a jolting hit. You know what I mean? But it's
Right.
just of enough to like, whoa, okay, this is funny, but I need to have a conversation. I need to call my little cousin or my brother, whatever the case is. But here's the interesting thing. I had offered the lead role to an actor, and when he read it, it hit him so much, he was like, "I can't play this role." I was like,
Oh
"Really?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "I can't do it." And he never expounded on why, whether it was too close to home for him personally or too close to home for him for what he knew about. But I knew in that moment, if you get an actor that turns your script down, and it's not because it's not well written, okay, now we're touching on something.
no. Right.
Mhm.
Gosh, that's insane. And it's genius to introduce a comedic aspect to it because, yeah, when we're digesting entertainment, you have to know how to play with the mind a little bit so it's just not this thing you walk out super depressed, but you're still getting the information because the
Right.
information is heavy no matter what it looks like. But to kind of, put some everyday and some laughs, a little joke in there,
Uh-huh.
just to cushion it a little bit, that's really good.
Yeah. Yep, and that's what we did.
You don't want people crying right off the bat. So I know you created the movie, of course, to create the conversation so that maybe people
Mhm.
who are going through it, people can ask them the right conversation. Um, so what was the initial thought when you were, considering making this show? And why did you choose Black men, sex abuse, and talk about the limited safe space that we have to talk about the trauma? I know you were talking about the kids that you speak with, but what do you
Mhm.
think it is about society or the societal pressures and norms that have us kind of putting men in these tiny little boxes with their two emotions that they're allowed to have, and not really giving men the full spectrum of emotions and space to be? Like, what do you think about our society and how we've kind of created that?
So I'm gonna start specifically with the African American community. In our community, because for men, it is such a tough environment for us in general. We're raised tough. You gotta be hard. You gotta and not hard from the standpoint of being able to fight and all that stuff. I mean, that's a part of it. But you have to show strength under the most dire situations at all times. You have to be a leader. You cannot be seen as weak. When you're a young boy, don't cry. What's wrong with you? Don't cry. Man up. That's a big thing in our community. Man up. And that puts in your psyche instantly from a young age. I cannot be seen as soft. I cannot handle any situation soft. I have to man up, right? So when a debilitating act of sexual abuse happens to you, now you are now put in the mental state that I've been violated in a way that makes me seem weak. Because as a man, it's like I should have stopped this growing up. It happened to you when you were a kid, nothing you could do about it. When you become a man, you think back, this is something I should have stopped. And if I don't say to someone, yeah, he tried this on me, and I had to let him know, you don't do that to me, whoop-de-whoop. I can't make that statement. So I don't want to talk about it. And if I do talk about it, I want to lie about it. And I've witnessed that in the initial conversations with some of my students and just doing my research. And that's a real thing. Anytime something happens to you that makes you come off as seem weak, the next thing that happens is I cannot come off to the world weak. I cannot display to my family that I was weak, especially when it comes to sexual abuse. So I just want to create a conversation where it's like, it's okay if you come off weak under something, if you were attacked. You see what I mean? It's
Right.
different being attacked than just being weak. And especially if it happened to you when you were a kid. And a kid doesn't mean 5, 6, 7. 18-year-olds are still kids. Just because you're 18, 16, 17, and you could be a big kid, but your mind is still a kid. Somebody can manipulate that. Sexual abuse is not always about let me throw you down, slam you down, and do what I want. It's the mental abuse that becomes a cycle. And you don't even realize that your mind is being tampered with in a manner to be manipulated. When you look up, it's 5 months later, it's like, how did I get in this situation? So that's the important aspect of it, to differentiate abuse with always being some physical, violent thing. It can be mental and it can be detrimental.
Dang, you hit the nail on the head with the whole week thing. I don't know where that came from, but it's like, you know, it is a real thing amongst men. And what presents a challenge for women, which I'm sure we'll see in your film, is you kind of never know what you're getting with men, just because if they're not willing to open up and be vulnerable about their past, then it's going to be challenging for the woman that they're with to step in and be a full helpmate when she doesn't have a full picture of who she's even with. So with that being said, what do you think, of course the film, but how do we invite these conversations in so that men can get healing? Like, I'm definitely seeing a shift. We have a show like this. We have Dondre Whitfield, Jay Barnett, the therapist. Christian Keys has been talking a lot, you know, the actor, and he's been through a lot of things and he's been speaking up about stuff. But I'm kind of wondering what we can do as a whole to keep creating space for these conversations so that men aren't literally suffering, because when men are suffering, it trickles down.
Right. With all the men that you just mentioned, Christian and Dondre and others, it starts with the courage to be able to create the conversation. And then the second aspect of it is finding some form of a platform to get people's attention. For me, I'm a filmmaker, so I tell mine through story. For a musical artist, it would be through his music. For a poet, through his poetry. For a speaker or a host, it would be hosting shows like this. So, but it's having the courage to actually do whatever you need to do to start the conversation. Because the first question that nobody wants to deal with is, what happened to you? Did this happen to you? And from a courage standpoint, people may not want to deal with that. The actor didn't want to deal with people thinking this happened to him. He never said whether it did or didn't. He just didn't want to deal with that. Someone asked me, I said, what if everybody thinks that happened to you? What if people think you're lying? And then when you say, you know, it didn't happen to you, it's like, oh, he's just trying to cover. It's not a concern for what I think people may think of me. It is a concern for having the conversation be started and created. You know what I mean? As long as I operate in my truth, I'm not concerned with anyone thinks of me because I know my truth, right? And if in my truth, there's concern about what people think of me, and the backdrop of that concern is the conversation about this, I got folk talking.
Right.
And this could, and the folk that could be talking could know somebody in their family, a close friend, that says, we were having a conversation about X, Y, and Z, and I thought of my nephew. Let me go ahead and call my brother and my sister and find out, yo, how's he doing? And it could be a thing that the family knows about, but keeps quiet because they don't want to be seen in a bad light. Now, one kid, just because of a conversation, it's like, is red, brown, and it's all started with, am I lying? And it ends up with the kid getting help. I'll live with that every day of the week.
Right. Seriously. I'm here for that. Yeah. That, please, like, whatever it takes. You know, you talked about it's not so much that it happened or that you have to share, but it's almost like I don't want other people to think this about me. I feel like in the Black community, we have a ton of pride when it comes to that. You know, people could be on their last dime, but they're sending their kids out looking great. Like,
exactly.
We're not sending out no messy kids. We're not presenting ourselves to the world as if we don't have it together. Where do you think that kind of, it's almost a stigma. Where do you think that kind of pride comes from when it comes to the Black community specifically?
For me, in my opinion, it comes with being, having lack and being looked at as so much less so often, that whatever we can do to be looked at as more, to be looked at, to just be looked at. You know what I mean? We are a look at me people. Everything we do. Like, look at me, look at me. because we were so overlooked for so long, right? And that builds up the self-esteem. Our self-esteem is constantly attacked in the most egregious manner. What the officer did to George Floyd was like, you're meaningless, and I can treat you as meaningless with this act, and that trickles down on us. So it's like, don't look at me as meaningless. I mean something. In order to make sure I know I mean something, let me put on some Jordans. Let me go buy some clothes. Let me make sure my hair is cut, even if it's not about the clothes. Some people have no job, nowhere to go, but they got a fresh haircut, nails is done. You know what I mean? 'Cause
They're not slipping. Yeah.
at all. And it's like, where are you going? Supermarket, get some top ramen.
Right.
You look like you're about to go to church.
Yeah.
Nope. Just go get some top ramen. That's it. But you know what I mean? I'm good when I do it.
Yeah.
And it's a true thing. In many cases, if nobody else is going to cheer for me, I got to cheer for myself. If nobody else is going to give me applause, I'm going to give myself an applause. And to give myself applause, maybe let me get my hair cut. Let me ask the barber. I ain't got the $30 to get this cut. I got $5. Can you hook me up?
Help me out, bro.
Whatever we got to do to keep ourselves feeling good about ourselves is what we do. The backlash of that on ourselves is it creates a world of denial in some people. It's like, yo, you look good. So where you living at now? Oh, I just got this 4-bedroom apartment in Calabasas, Well, weren't you just at the Y? Oh, I was visiting somebody. You see what I mean?
Right.
That pride, that reminding me that I'm really not worth what I look like I'm worth.
Right.
Kicks in and it creates denial. And if we can be accepting of one another's truths, getting out of the clique, I only hang with people that's making XYZ dollars. I'm only going to hang with working actors. Getting my law degree, I'm not going to talk to those people that only got a C. I'm a lawyer now. If we can get out of that and accept each other for who we are, it will diminish that need to be so prideful and increase that truth of, this is just who I am. No, I can't get a haircut because I ain't got no money. And shoot, listen, I got to make a choice between the lights, top ramen, and a haircut. That's a choice we all got to make every day. Do I keep these lights on or do I go get these Jordans? Let me see. I got some candles, so I think the Jordan's going to win.
Right.
That's the choices we got to make as a people.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's very true. And I'm hoping that with everything that happened with the Black Lives Matter, that's happening with the Black Lives Matter movement and everything, as top priority, as I think it is to fix this situation with police brutality, I also think that it's an opportunity for us to look in the mirror at some of this stuff so that we're not suffering so much. And that, like you said, it's like we have this, quote unquote enemy on the outside, blah, blah, blah. But the way we treat ourselves and the way we think and the way we do things definitely contributes to our mental health, our emotional stability, how we raise our children, and what reverberates in our DNA and continues to carry on.
Right.
So you mentioned courage.
Mm-hmm.
How do you see courage and vulnerability playing hand in hand, especially when it comes to men, sex abuse, and having a safe space to talk about it?
So it takes a courageous person to speak about a debilitating thing that has happened to them, right? Because many of us define courage with physical strength, brute strength, quote unquote, loking up on somebody, not running from a fight. We differentiate that from having the courage to sit up there and say, and I'll start with something that's really hard for most people, and mainly Black folk, but many people. It takes courage to say, I'm a liar. It takes courage to say, for a husband to look at his wife and say, baby, I lied to you. That takes courage. It takes courage to go to your mom and be like, yo, don't don't spank my sister. I broke it, right? All those things are courageous. If it is hard to say to someone, I'm a liar because we lack courage to do that, who wants to sit up there and say I was sexually abused?
True.
When in the face of the judgment, they'd rather say, was you abused? No, but I did lie.
Right.
They'd rather say I'm a liar than say I was abused.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Because the magnitude of one outweighs the magnitude of other, but it still takes courage to do both.
Yeah.
So the vulnerability to expose the most difficult thing decreases. The more difficult, the less I'm vulnerable to share that. I'd rather be looked at as a liar as someone that was sexually abused. I'd rather be looked at as a cheater. Yeah, babe, I cheated. You know, I'd rather look. Yeah, I stole it, but you
Right.
didn't steal nothing. If I got to talk between being abused or stealing this goddamn hair dye for men, I stole the hair dye. But you didn't steal no hair dye. You're not even going gray. Listen, I ain't talking about being abused. I stole it. I took me to jail. Let's go. And that's where vulnerability decreases, when it comes against the magnitude of what you have to be vulnerable about.
That's true. And I guess if, you'd have to really be practicing, because I can definitely relate to that. Even, it's challenging to admit something that is going to change the perception people have of you.
It is.
I mean,
yeah.
I find that challenging, I've even had to get better about certain struggles that I've been through and sharing them, because it's like, I don't want people to know that I'm going through this or went through that. Or if somebody knows that I accepted that in my life, they're going to think they can treat me that way. Or they're going to think that I'm dumb because I let somebody treat me that way.
Mm-hmm.
So vulnerability, it definitely goes, both ways. That's something I can definitely relate to, being a woman and just this, regardless of who you are, what it is, or what happens, the space has to be created for you to have the conversation. You have to have trust. You have to have peace. You have to have courage. Right. And there has to be the right space there. Or I don't know. It's very challenging.
Yeah.
People are harsh. Judgment is hard.
They are. They are. And you know what else is very interesting? It takes courage to receive that information.
It does. And to hold space for someone. Right.
Think of a father whose son is coming to tell him that. That type of father is like, not in my family. No, I don't want to hear it. But Dad, I need to talk to you. I don't want to hear nothing about it. Right? Think of the family name that people want to protect. If the son or the daughter is like, I want to tell you what Uncle Ray Ray is doing to me. I don't know. This family, we don't have those problems. So it takes courage to be able to even take in the information. And it takes vulnerability from that person to not only take it in, but then to deal with it and do something about it. Because now they have to be vulnerable enough to say, this is the problem that's going on in my family with my kid, my nephew, whatever the case is. And that's a vulnerable place, because now you're looked upon, even if you didn't do anything, you're just getting the information. But now you're looked upon and judged. You're a bad parent. You're a bad aunt. You're a bad friend. You knew this was happening to your friend. What happens again? The cyclical cycle of judgment. And that's big for us, where as Black folk, as we get older, because many Black folk have told so many lies and got caught so many times, as we get older, like, I'm not lying no more. Yeah, I did. That's just
this is what it is.
Right. But when we're younger, because of the judgment that happens to us in our community at young, them lies gonna last. Listen, you lying from 15 to about 48. That's a long time. About 3 generations of lying.
It's true.
But if you can snap that cycle and say, look, this is the reality, this is what it is. I don't care what you think of me. It's meaningless. The only thing that matters is that I deal with this situation. We care too much of how we're perceived, as opposed to caring more about how we stop being deceived.
That's true. And that's powerful because it leaks into so much that we go through. And it's unnecessary. It's kind of insane. But fixable. It sounds like more of a series of bad habits as opposed to we just can't do this thing. We can do
Right.
it. But it takes films like yours, it takes conversations like this one, it takes bringing these things to the light. So that way people can see, okay, it's not just me. Like they've been through this. It was hard for them. They felt this shame and guilt and they went through this. And so did I. You know, the more people speak up and you feel like you have a community around you,
Right.
people that understand, it definitely makes it easier to, you know, speak up. So what do you think some of the long-term effects of holding things in and not talking to someone about your issues does to a man?
It has a few different effects. One, I would say, is stress. A building up of stress. It's like a cream puff. If you leave a cream puff in the oven for too long, it'll eventually explode. When you have something that powerful inside you that you're not sharing, right, creates the internal stress. And we've all been sick from mental anguish or whatever the case is. So that's one aspect of it. Not being an effective, if you're in a dating relationship, not being effective in that relationship because you're holding on to a lie that's affecting the person that you are, which means the person you're dating doesn't really get to know who you really are. And we all have triggers. So if something comes up that triggers that, but the person you're dating doesn't understand what the trigger is, it's like, let me leave this person alone because they crazy. This person not their mind. They're not crazy. They just never shared something that burdens them so heavily that they've never talked about it. So, and because the thing that triggered them, they can't talk about it. But now they're reacting and acting out on something that you have no information about. So the only thing you can do is think this person's crazy, right? And
Sure.
one of the last things I would say is not putting an end to something that happened to you from it happening to someone that's close to you. So because you don't want to talk about it, you may be witnessing it, seeing it, know about it, but because you can't talk about it, you're not going to help it end somewhere else. So it becomes cyclical, and it almost systemic. The less we talk about something that is an urgent or dire matter, the less we can put an end to it because nobody knows it happened. You can't end something unless you know it happened. And those three things, year after year after year after year, can affect your relationships, you at your job. It can affect everything. And one last thing is it makes you conditioned to believing that you can hold on to a lie.
Woo!
So if I believe I can hold on to a lie and nobody ever finds out and I can keep living, well, shoot, if I can lie about that, let me lie about this. Shoot, look, I have 20 years to hold on to this one. Shoot, did I go into your purse? No, it wasn't me. My phone heard you like fumbling around in my purse. I have cameras in my house. The cameras was glitching. I was not. It makes you believe you can hold on to a lie. And that affects your relationships year after year after year after year.
Those were 4 very amazing topics, and it was all very true. And then something that I thought about to add on top of that is, the physical stuff that we go through when we hold in lies, disease, dis-ease in the body, fibroids in women, throat cancers and stomach cancers and, cold,
Right.
all of the cancers and all of these things.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I feel like those come from our traumas, our unsaid truths, our unhealed wounds. It just festers in the body in a certain section and collects. And now
Right.
you've got a certain kind of disease or whatever.
And you know what people do to get rid of disease?
What's that?
You know what people do to get rid of disease?
What?
Start taking drugs.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't deal with this. I need marijuana. Okay, it's legal. Do your thing. That ain't enough no more. This lie is too big. I need some cocaine. All right, now you're going a little far. That ain't enough no more. I need some meth. because you get immune to something and then you need more. And what you're doing is you're making the lie even bigger by trying to squash it. Because it's like, the reason I'm doing this is because I'm living with this thing. And I can't forget about it. So I need more cocaine. I can't forget it. I need more methamphetamine. And the more and the more and the more you're affecting yourself, the more you're deteriorating yourself. And then ultimately you expire.
It's true. And it's so hard to watch. Of course, being a woman, I created this to hear from men about men, because women, we have our sister circles. We go to the spa, we pray together. I think girls, we got the sisterhood on lock. We over here trying to see Jesus in the physical realm here. Okay. We are going all out. And I don't, with men, now more spaces are being created, but them not being people to do that. It's really unfortunate. Part of what launched this for me is men that I've dated. I see a good heart. I know good dudes. There's good people out there. And women, I think we can see the heart. We're very good natured and we have that nature to want to be together. But I can tell that there's a lot of repressed stuff going on, because it's like I'm seeing reactions and I'm getting all of this stuff, and I never know where it's coming from. And it's just sometimes very difficult to deal with. So with that being said, you're a man. How does a woman, because, if a man meets a woman who has bad intentions and she throws one of his secrets in his face, he's going to be less hesitant to tell anybody. So how does a woman show up and create space that is safe for a man to open up and know that he won't be manipulated, or his truths and, tender places won't be exploited to, on any reason? How does a woman create space for a man to be open?
I would say 3 big keys. 1, in her relationship with him, demonstrate as a woman that you're not going to judge him on every little thing. You know what I mean? A man may make a statement, do you cook? No. Oh, so I'm just supposed to be cooking for you all the time? That's a judgment statement, right?
Right.
If you let a man know, I'm not going to judge you, right? That creates a safe place for him where it's like, oh, she ain't judging me. Because many women, look, a woman's greatest need is security, a man's greatest need is respect, right? When a woman feels insecure, it can create judgment, which is fair. That's okay, right? But if she creates a place where there's no judgment, that opens up a door. The next thing is listening. And what I mean by listening is not just hearing what he says. You give a response that is directly related to what he said that isn't always motherly. Women are maternal, period, right? And in many cases, they may say something where a man's like, look, I don't need another mom. I don't need another mom, right?
Right.
If a woman just uses her God-given born intellect to respond to what he's saying, to it's like, oh, she's listening to me without judgment and not being my mother, right? And then if you got those two together, let's go ahead and add the creme de la creme to the whole thing. Deal with the brother with understanding. You did X, Y, and Z, but because I listened to you and understand where it's coming from without judging you, I understand why you did that. It don't mean you're going to get a pass,
right?
Depending on what he did. But at least I understand why you did it, and we can have a conversation and work through it, so you better not do it again.
Right.
But now he's like, yo, my woman deals with me with understanding. It's our job as men to deal with a woman with understanding. That's our job.
Yeah.
But if a woman deals with a man with understanding, oh my God. Oh my God. You know what I mean?
Right.
He's been listening, and then without judgment, now he has a safe place to go to her and say, I need to tell you something. And her first response is, what is it? The moment she says that, he knows she's going to hear me, not judge me, and understand me.
Yeah.
Those 3 things right there. You want to hit a 3-pointer? Right? Listen, no judgment, and understanding. Oh, we already gonna treat you like a queen, but now you the queen of the queens. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you know, I'll take that little advice. I'm gonna put that one in my pocket. You know, I can definitely see, and this is why I like to have the conversation, you know, man and woman, because I can see how for women this becomes a challenge in different ways because we're not all healed. And in addition to that, if we're really looking for you guys to be our protectors, you know, our providers, and to hold us down in a certain way, there's a certain way a man can show up where a woman feels safe. And if we have that safety, there's so much more in us that we have to give. But I think a lot of the static comes from moments of ignorance, moments of disrespect, moments of misunderstanding, moments where one of the parties are triggered, and then you kind of lose the opportunity to walk in that judgment, non-judgment, listening and understanding, because you're either afraid or you're triggered or you don't trust the person anymore. So it gets real complicated. There's a lot of work that goes into just a healthy relationship.
It really does. It really takes a lot of work, and people don't understand that. But when you have two people of like minds that understand this is work, you know, you have a great thing. And here's an interesting thing for me. Two of the worst things that I hate to see is two people who love each other and not together, and two people who can't stand each other and are together.
Yeah.
It's a terrible thing. You know what I mean? And the two people who love each other and not together, they let little things get in the way. She's my best friend and we get along, but I don't like the way she dressed. What?
Right.
You know?
Right.
And then for the brothers, I can talk to him. He's my friend. He means something to me, but he don't make as much money as this guy. You know? And it's like, boom, you know? And it's like, y'all two should be together, but because he's at Ralph's clean up on aisle 7, you don't want to be with him. You know, but this is your best friend. So while you with the dude with the money who you can't talk to, you're calling your best friend while he got to clean up on aisle 7. But that's who you need to talk to, but you don't want to be with him.
Right.
You know? And then two people who are together, it's like, I don't really like him, but he's rich. And it's like, I don't really like her, but she's my arm ornament.
Right.
Y'all both here, y'all say y'all don't like each other, but y'all together. And these two over here who love each other, not together. It's the worst thing in the world. It's the worst thing in the world. It's terrible.
It's crazy the way our minds work and the way we deal with things. It's nuts. Like, I'm not going to claim to understand it all because I'm just here to learn and grow with everybody else.
Exactly.
Okay, so I love this. You've given us such great information. Where can we find the film, and like when can we watch it? Is there going to be a premiere? So that way, how can we share your film? Like, how can we get involved in?
So we just finished shooting. I'm in the process of editing. When it's done, it'll hit the film festival circuit, and we'll see how that goes with COVID. And then after that, it should be on Amazon.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. We're gonna have to blast it out, share it, and support. Yeah, because that's amazing, and it's just really important. I can't dream of, you know, these little boys, these young men, these men who are going through things. You'd be surprised. You never know what people are going through. When I used to work for an intuitive healer and spiritual life coach, we would do a bunch of retreats, and you would just see oh, hey girl, you know, women, we're all, and then we sit down and start talking, and you find out people have been through the most ungodly things. You don't even know how they're sitting there with a smile on their face these days. So it's just such a reminder. Remember that people are going through things. And if we can invite in empathy, compassion, conversation, respect, understanding, non-judgment in the same manner that we want, being the change that we want to see, then we have a real chance here to again harmonize our relationship. So I just love it. You know, it'll take some time, but I think we're here and in a space to talk about these things so we can move forward together.
Exactly.
Into the sunset.
Yeah.
So before we go, I definitely wanted to touch on, especially because we're talking about men, repressed emotions, not having a space to communicate What do you think is going on with Kanye West?
Wow.
Did you see all of that?
I saw it. Here's what I think. Being in the public eye for so long and having, and I think it's self admitted on his part, being bipolar, knowing that he has to have medications, and being in the public eye, I think the two have come to a head, right? And again, that pride thing, because there's always rumors that he doesn't like taking his medicine, and that's with anybody. You know, when you have a quote unquote mental disorder or something like that that requires medicine,
Right.
who knows? It could have an adverse effect physically. It's like every time I take that stuff, my chest hurt or I don't feel good, so I don't want to take it. And I think a desire to want to do good has been displaced mentally and come out verbally as gibberish, in for lack of a better word. You know what I mean? I think there's a good heart and a good desire. I just think that the combination of the two have not meshed well and have come out to be something that is more disdainful to him than something that is advantageous for him. So it may be advantageous for him to desire to want to help his people and do well, but because of the condition and not having it properly treated, has caused him to come off looking bad, you know, and that's sad because I think anybody that has a good heart that wants to do good, but doesn't have the proper functionality to function within whatever their disorder is, it's never going to go good for them. And we are a judgmental people. And there's two aspects of us as a people. We're judgmental, right?
Hella judgmental.
Exactly. But we're also accepting of those things that we don't understand just to be within the popularity or on the popular side. So there are some people like, man, Kanye knows exactly what he's doing. Why does he have that? Because he Kanye. I didn't ask who he was. I said, why does he have that? Because he made all these albums. I didn't ask what he did. I said, why? You see what I mean? All the answer is something that deals with his popularity or his wealth. It don't have anything to do with the facts, right? Then you have the other people, and all this is real. Who like, man, he crazy. Something wrong with the dude. He out of his mind. He out of his mind. You know?
Right.
Why do you think that is? Because he crazy. I already know what he is. I said, why do you think he's that way? Because he don't want to do nothing but be crazy. Okay, I can't get an answer from you.
Yeah, you're not really ready to have a conversation.
You know what I mean? There's a middle ground of people who was like, I see it for what he is. I think he's bipolar. I think he's off his meds, and I think he needs help. You know, and we're people. Listen, it's very real. We gravitate to that which is funny. So we're going to come up with answers. That's funny. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kanye saw Jada Pinkett getting all this notoriety for being an entanglement, so he want to go create his own entanglement so that he can get some notoriety and get himself a new music show. What?
Right.
You know what I mean? We'll gravitate to stuff that don't make no damn sense because it's either funny or ridiculous. You know? But when you get to the heart of the matter, in my opinion, I just think the desire to do well without properly being treated has come to a head and made him look really, really bad.
You know, I love that you put it that way. You spoke of like the mental displacement and yes, not coupling right with emotions and words and facts and the way, because that's how I feel. I see his passion and I genuinely think he wants to do right.
Right.
Because I can see the love. This is the same thing that happens in dating. Oh, we see he's a good man. He just got some problems, girl.
Right.
It's like I see him. I see his good heart. It's not, and I wish you just named the 3 different things that people are saying about him and how judgmental we are as a community. And I hope we get better with this because what I don't like seeing is, sure, we can do, Black Lives Matter, all this and that, but why Black lives only matter right there? Like, Black lives got to matter all the way across the board. And Kanye is still a Black man. He could marry whoever, be in whatever family. That man is Black.
Exactly.
And I do feel like we have a responsibility to each other And the least we could do is, again, invite in the compassion, the empathy, the space, the understanding. We don't have to know everything. We're never going to know everything. We're not going to know everything when it comes to the Hollywood world, whose life and whatever.
Right.
But if we can minimize how we drag and cancel and crap on people for their views, their choices, their words, if it's not harming you at night, like deliberately, I don't mean harming you by, oh, he's gonna make people vote for Trump. Politics is a whole nother conversation.
Right.
So we can leave that out, but it's just, I would like to see us do better, because I felt more love and compassion for him than I felt, oh, he's crazy, he's doing this, he's doing that. What is that going to serve for me to talk about this brother like that?
At all, And if we spend more time lifting folk up and getting folk help, you'll be amazed of how many mathematicians, lawyers, doctors, singers, carpenters, how adroit and how excellent that we could be in our field if we start building each other up. Now, one thing that does make us excellent in our field is because we do tear each other down so much. We do work hard to not get torn down. But the tear down happens so often that it's like, why even try, man? It's like, not everybody's got strong self-esteem. So you get torn down a little bit, like, I'm done. I don't want to go through my people judging me. I'd rather stand here, be on the corner, sell my little drugs, drink my little liquor, do my little job, do my little. You know what I mean? I don't want to expand or go beyond the scope of being judged at trying to be great. You know what I mean?
That part.
Yeah. And greatness can only be purchased with the currency of hard work. A lot of times folks don't want to work hard. I don't want to do all that.
And hard work includes not just punching the clock, but the work on yourself.
Right.
Can I receive judgment? Do I have the courage to look crazy for a minute, but because I have the conviction in my heart and I've discerned this thing, I can run with it with full speed and be eaten up for a while if it takes that to get to this point.
Yeah.
Where there will be understanding and change.
Exactly.
But making people small, especially Black men, the way we attack, and women, Black women too, because we go hard on each other. We're all going hard on each other.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
We're not creating the space for people with different thought ideas to emerge proudly and boldly. We're making it hard, and that could very well be what changes things, but we're stifling it by putting all that out there. Like, it don't have to be like that. You don't have to agree. Relax. Like, God, man, it's just But it's all good. Thank you so much for weighing in that so beautifully, so perfectly. I totally enjoyed this conversation. Can't wait to share it. Can't wait to check out the film, and I'm going to share it when I see it. So we'll stay in touch. So, you can let me know like when it's on Amazon or how it's doing in the film festival circuit.
I will, for sure. And I have another little project that's about to hit Amazon called Child Support.
Oh.
So, yeah. I try to touch on topics.
Come on, go in. What's this one about?
It's a comedy about a guy who has to pay child support to a woman he never had sex with.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting. So you'll see.
Okay, so that one's coming out on Amazon too.
Yep, and that'll be out soon. I'll let you know for sure.
All right, let's let the good people know where they can find you online, so you guys can follow Reggie and stay up with all his stuff.
Yeah, just Reggie Gaskins everywhere. Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just my name, Reggie Gaskins, and you will find me. I teach acting, so anybody in LA, I do virtual acting classes. I teach Meisner and Stanislavski method techniques, and I also write scenes for actors to add to their reels, and I shoot. That's what I do.
Oh, now that's good. I do need an acting reel. I might have to hit you up on that one.
Okay, I got you.
I don't have one. I'm trained, but I don't have a reel.
I got you.
I love it. Reggie, thank you so much for your time today. It was such a pleasure chatting with you. Thanks for joining us on King Speak. And just keep killing it. Keep shining. Keep sharing. Keep making these bold choices and starting these heart projects and finishing them and delivering them. And I'm just so excited and proud of you. So thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you so much, girl.
Yes, yes. All right. Well, have a good rest of your day, and we will see you soon.
All right. Have a good day.
All right. Bye. All right, guys. That was great, wasn't it? Thank you so much for tuning in. Please make sure to tune in every Monday at 11 a.m. live on YouTube and Facebook for another episode of Kings Speak. Next week, we have an amazing guy, John Maroney, and we got some good subjects that we're going to be talking about. So I'll see you guys next week on Kings Speak, and please make sure you're following us on Instagram. Peace.